So another crazy thing that happened while we were gone were GameStop shares went like crazy, and apparently it was a group of people on Reddit versus Wall Street.
I was like, that Wall Street bets people. I'm like,
right. So basically, what the story is a bunch of individual investors are making money off of institutional investors. Well, institutional investors are making money too, but what happened was
their stand on the.
What happened was these investors got greedy, shorted GameStop shares, and
Investors got greedy.
Right, and we'll see the video when we get to it right now. But people who saw this on Reddit saw an opportunity to buy up all those shares because it basically left the institutional investors exposed, and Reddit took advantage of that. So let's take a look at the story because I'm not doing a very good job explaining it. This is Reddit versus Wall Street. So this is Reddit, if you guys don't know, is a forum, and so they have a Wall Street Bets forum that specifically covers topics like this.
Before this fiasco, they would get made fun of a lot by the regular Reddit community.
They would get made fun of a lot by their own community.
Oh, really?
Right. Yeah. So we'll see how it. Yeah, we're gonna see how it started.
Okay.
2012, 30-year-old Jamie Rogozinski would browse a forum called Reddit from time to time. He had made some extra cash at the time while working in Washington, D.C. So, Jamie had the idea to gather a community around investing. He
says, like 4chan found a Bloomberg terminal illness. If you guys don't know, 4chan is like this anonymous...
They even call themselves degenerates.
Yeah, 4chan is an anonymous anonymous message board. A Bloomberg terminal is like this really state-of-the-art, like it costs a lot of money, either a year, but to install it, you get access to like all of the financial systems in the world. And so it's what like institutional investors use to make their trades.
To access the
information
about financial and industries that are,
Start a subreddit called Wall Street Bets in order to do this. For the first few years, the Wall Street Bets forum only managed a few thousand users. Then in 2019, some brokerage giants eliminated trading commissions for their apps.
So what this means is there used to be trading commissions on apps, but then in 2019, the big apps like Robinhood and the other ones, they weren't putting fees on it. So it made it a lot easier for just individual investors like you and me to start buying and trading shares because there weren't fees on it.
Yes, the penny stocks.
Any stock.
And
trading free and
similar to that.
In a moment, retail investing exploded onto the scene.
So retail investing is individual investing, not institutional investing.
Not using a hedge fund.
Yeah.
Right?
This quickly grew past 500,000, then 1 million during the crash of March 2020. By this time, the community had taken on a mind of its own. Jamie, the original forum's creator, voiced his concerns that it was spiraling out of control and deleted some moderators as he saw fit. He was met with backlash and was ejected by other moderators. This was now bigger than Jamie. In a statement to the Wall Street Journal, he noted that Wall Street Bets is no longer what it used to be. While all of this was going on, a user in the Wall Street Bets forum by the name of Keith Gill was keenly studying something he'd noticed. On his YouTube channel, the armchair investor Keith Gill laid out his game plan. It was to buy some stock of a company called GameStop, an unassuming store founded in 1984 and familiar to most people in the United States. GameStop had a simple business model: to sell video games and gaming equipment out of its physical store locations. Naturally, this model became less lucrative as more gamers moved to online purchases. It seemed that GameStop was on the ropes of facing bankruptcy. So why did Keith want to buy such a company? Well, he thought that this view was overblown. Although the company was closing stores, by looking at their 10Q quarterly financial reports, they actually had a lot of cash and could pay off their debts, and the company could recover just with some good management. On his YouTube channel, Keith would prove his points with evidence.
Yeah, so he basically saw that did they declare bankruptcy?
No, but the rumor was that they're going down, right, and they can't.
And so when he looked into like their 10-year or their 10 quarterly,
each quarter they have to do all their finances.
Right. He actually saw that they were actually in much better condition
than others.
Than the media was reporting even. So he just looked. That's all he had to do. He just looked.
Well, they're public. Once they're publicly traded.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All he did was look, and he put all of this.
Do you know how a lot of people can't read that kind of stuff?
Right, but if you're putting money where, if you're investing money and like doing this is the diligence that you do.
Yeah, because I can see already, like, so much of that stuff is like really hard for the average person to understand, to see where their stock, like what the money and liability and
right. But this is what the power
hedge funds people
of
do.
Wallstreet bets is because one person can just do it and post it, and you can crowdsource the information like that, where now all of the people have this information.
They can review it the way he sets it out or lays it out.
Press releases, seeking alpha articles, company notes, and more, all to make his case that the stock was actually undervalued. For example, he knew that new gaming consoles were coming out soon, and this would be great for GameStop sales. He also theorized that the move to digital was actually a lot slower than people were thinking, and this would be important for the company over the next couple of years. He pulled up articles and videos of people talking about physical game discs versus digital downloads. He realized that there was still a lot of demand for physical games, which meant even more revenue for GameStop. He was diligent and left no stone unturned to make his case. He invested $53,000 in GameStop in September.
This was 2018, 2019, it's 2020 right now, and the trend is clearly going toward digital. But this is my point, is that you're still seeing some countries that are still heavily skewed to physical, and I don't think 1 year later, all of a sudden everyone's going to be buying digital. I just need to make sure that GameStop isn't going bankrupt, in that people are still buying discs, and that there are still demands for GameStop for just a couple of years, because if that's the case, GameStop is likely undervalued.
Or they can increase their value.
Yes, because another thing was they did start changing management to pivot the company in a way that it's like, oh, this could survive.
Well, let's take a look at the hedge fund short positions and the people who bet against GameStop.
And this happens all the time to all companies. It's happening to...
Happens to Tesla. Happens everywhere.
Shorting means thinking that the price is going to go down.
A small number of Redditors also agreed with Keith, but then they noticed something even more peculiar. 84% of GameStop stock was held as short positions. That is, betting that the price would fall. This was highly unusual. It turned out that hedge funds had colluded in selling short the stock, publicly stating that the price would go down, therefore making them millions. They sold over 130% of the GameStop stock short.
So what this means is hedge funds took a position betting that the price of the stocks would go down. So how this works is, how shorting works is, let's say you're a car dealership. I'm going to use cars as an example because that's something that naturally depreciates.
Yes, here's a car.
Right. So they say like as soon as you drive a car off the lot, how much of the value do you lose? Like 40%? 50%. Okay, yeah, let's say 50. So let's say you're a car dealership. And for some reason you have this deal where you say I'll give you the car today. You just have to return it to me in a year and pay the interest on the car.
Okay.
Right? And so let's say it's a $20,000 car. And I'm thinking, oh, if I just have to return this car to you in a year, I can sell the car today brand new and then save
up the half to go buy used car.
If I get 20,000 now and it's going to be 10,000 in a year, I can just go buy a car in a year and keep the 10,000
and have 20,000.
Right. So that's what shorting works is if you think the price of a stock is going to go down, you can buy the stock today, sell it, and then buy the stock cheaper and return that stock to the bank. That's how shorting works, right? So you're buying something today, selling it, so you can buy it cheaper later because you have to return that stock. Mm-hmm. So what Reddit found out is that there is 137 short positions on GameStop stock. And so an absurdly high number of shorts on a stock. So everyone's basically expecting the stock to go down, even though all of the data seems to say that this stock is undervalued, meaning that the price is going to go up because of the way, of like the physical like the new consoles that got released, and like the demand for physical goods is still going to be there. And so that's what leads us to what Reddit's plan is. Because let's say I needed to buy my car in a year to return to you, and Reddit knows there's only so many cars out there. Let's say it's like a Honda Civic, and Reddit knows that there's only like 1 million out there. What if Reddit started buying these cars knowing that I needed one in a year, right?
2 years.
So if you're an institutional investor and you owe maybe 1,000 cars, maybe 1 million cars, and all of a sudden all of those cars are bought up, because Reddit bought them all.
Well, it's just a supply demand thing.
Yes.
Like now there's no more
But
supply.
that's what their
but
exposure.
The demand, you're paying for because you put money on the
Right.
the demand.
And that's where they expose themselves. They showed themselves that they needed these cars later, because that's what a short position is.
Yeah.
And so Reddit was like, let's buy all the cars. It's called a short squeeze, where you buy all the cars so that the people that need to pay back those cars have to buy them for the price that they're going at, which if you own most of the cars, you get to set the price.
Or
that's what cornering a market is.
What if you don't have it? What if you can't?
Yeah. Then you have to pay interest on the car until you bring the car back. That's why a short position, you can lose a lot of money. You can basically lose an infinite amount of money if you can't pay back the car, because you still have to pay interest on the car you loaned.
And you don't know how long that interest is going to go for, because you're still just waiting.
So yeah, let's take a look at the GameStop short squeeze. So they use the example of baseball cards, I think. So if they reference baseball cards or GameStop shop or GME, it's the same thing as the cars that we mentioned.
While Keith was posting about his findings, another Reddit forum user posted a 7-point document titled, quote,
That's a notes,
Bankrupting Institutional Investors for Dummies.
So this is in notes, but he posted this calling bankrupting institutional investors for dummies, meaning if the retail investors, meaning the individual investors on Reddit, all go and buy these shares together, the hedge funds or the institutional investors that hold the short positions won't be able to buy those shares to return them, therefore bankrupting them or making them buy the short positions at a loss, which would be even more expensive, which would be like a loss literally in the billions.
They are already buying them at losses back.
Right. And so it's either they buy them at a loss.
Control over it.
It's either they buy them at a loss or they have to pay interest on it until God knows when.
Yeah, I think they just kept selling without realizing that the supply was getting less and less.
In GameStop, the user pointed out that hedge funds were fatally exposed. The Wallstreet Bets forum loved the idea. It was brilliant. The risk to the Redditors was limited. The worst that could happen is that the stock goes to zero and they lose all their money. On the other hand, the risk to the hedge funds was immense. The hedge funds could lose more money than they put in, and worse still, they had borrowed money to short sell. The plan was for the Reddit army to keep buying GameStop stock, driving up the price and making the hedge funds lose more and more money. The hedge funds would be forced to abandon their positions and cover their losses by buying shares from the market to return to their lenders. And like our baseball card example earlier, this very act drives up the prices even more. It was a cascading event leading to a dramatic rise in the stock price in a very short time period. It was almost like a bug in a video game being exploited. As the stock kept rising and the hedge funds kept losing money, Reddit realized that they could bring the hedge funds to their knees. It was a digital form of protest. The masses were playing the banks and hedge funds' own game against them. By January 26th, GameStop was the single most traded stock in the US stock market, with volumes matching that of the 5 biggest tech giants combined. GameStop saw its share price spike from just a few dollars in 2020 to a peak of over $490, transforming a firm that was valued at less than $200 million in April 2020 into a company worth more than $28 billion.
So those are big numbers. So if we scale that down, let's say you made $200 in 1 year. Imagine the next year making $28,000. That's the difference between 200 million and 28 billion. It's like 100 times, I think. That's crazy.
In a matter of how long?
So yeah, the investors left themselves exposed because they had to get these stocks back, and and all of their short positions are public. And Reddit saw an opportunity to make them pay. It's like the movie The Big Short, except
Because
instead
they
of
were selling and accounting for more stock than was available.
No, I know. So it's like the movie The Big Short, except instead of like really smart people working in finance, like Michael Berry
It's a decentralized form.
Yeah, it's just literally like people on the internet, like just like reading it and like putting it out there. And he's like, this is what's going on. And that's the scary thing about social media.
And they actually did it.
Right. That's the scary
That's the
thing
thing,
about
they did
social
it.
media is that you can mobilize like millions of people at once.
Well, we've seen that when social media like Twitter would get a better response than, like someone complaining about like
But now
head of someone being an asshole and whatever. And like,
But now you've never seen it before where it actually like bankrupted hedge funds.
the way they want to bankrupt the
Yeah,
little
now
companies over
it's
and
like
over again.
no target is too big for social media. This is like Revenge of '08. I hope I can't wait for
I know, it's like the reverse.
can't wait for the movie
Is it the reverse?
that they make about this. Okay,
Yeah, 'cause
so
there's so many questions.
let's talk about Reddit diamond hands. What are those?
Redditors
They learned it from the
encouraged each other
Bitcoiners, the whole
to hold
hodlers.
strong and not to sell no matter what, a term that they called diamond hands. The plan was, the longer the Redditors held out, the more damage they would do to the hedge funds. This would be in the order of millions and possibly billions of dollars due to the large amounts of interest they had to pay. Other Redditors noticed that more companies in bad shape were also being heavily shorted. This included Nokia, AMC movie theaters, and more. Other coordinated attacks were made to bid up these prices too, and it seemed to be working. Melvin Capital, a heavy short seller, was a large casualty. They had to be bailed out to the tune of $2.7 billion by
Wow.
What?
So Melvin Capital,
Huge bailout.
they lost, from what I saw last, 53% of their their fund because of this. And then I saw a lot of things on Reddit where they were like, only 47% more to go.
It's okay. Just give them a $600 stipend.
Yeah, so they needed a 2.75 million bailout just because a bunch of Redditors got together and decided to corner a market on a GameStop stocks.
Dell, another hedge fund. And this was according to Bloomberg.
So see,
Meanwhile,
their stock money and that stuff isn't actual money, but the fact that but it's
It's a security. It's like Bitcoin.
but they're getting bailed out with real money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the U.S. printing, however much they did,
No, I think they
Is
get
that-
bailed out by another hedge fund, not necessarily not the government. Another hedge fund
Oh.
comes and like buys
like
them
their
out.
mom hedge fund,
Yeah.
whichever one was helping them.
three of GameStop's biggest investors gained over $2 billion in personal wealth from the frenzy. Other small traders were now able to pay back student loans. Another subreddit called Wallstreet Bets Gives Back donated their earnings to charities and organizations. As for our armchair investor, Keith Gill, who had only invested around $53,000 back in 2019, his bet on GameStop had now turned into a fortune of $48 million at the height of the stock rally.
That's a 1,000 time return, I think. 53,000 to 48 million. That's crazy. Good for him. He deserves it.
Yeah. Well, he rallied all the people, right? He's the one
Well,
that told
I think-
them
but
of what
he's-
was going on, and
I think
how
he's the first one to really like put his money there. I mean,
put his money where his
I
mouth
heard,
is.
I heard Michael
where
Berry.
his research is.
I heard Michael Berry also did it too, and Michael Berry was Christian Bale's character in The Big Short, one of the first guys who saw that the mortgage security.
Well, he probably was able to read what he pointed out really quick.
Yeah.
And was like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I'll bet some money on that."
Well, even though even though, yeah, they took down some big hedge funds, it's still, you see a lot of tech companies working against Wall Street bets. And so let's take a look at that.
They don't like Wall Street bets.
Well, it seems like they like the financial institutions that they're trying to prop up more than whatever these guys are trying to do.
Yeah.
Battle lines soon began to be drawn. Discord stepped in and banned communication between the Redditors on their platform, citing hate speech. But it only fueled the fire.
Speech?
The Wall Street Bets forum on Reddit would grow from 5 million subscribers to 8 million in a couple of days. Facebook was next to step in and ban the Robinhood trading group with over 157,000 members.
Why am I not
The
surprised?
popular trading app, Robinhood, made it to #1 on the App Store before banning retailers from buying GameStop stock. Nokia, AMC, and other stocks were also included in the ban. Only selling was allowed. The actions by Robinhood enraged the general public, who was by now fully aware of the
if they only that means they wanted them to sell so that the people who can buy the regular means could just buy them up and take control again. How is that not shady?
Yeah, that's why they call it. That's why there's a big controversy.
Okay, sorry.
situation. Multiple class action lawsuits were launched, and politicians and celebrities alike got involved. Blocking people from buying stocks and only letting them sell would be pushing the price down artificially. This could have been perceived as a form of market manipulation. The perception was that Robinhood was siding with the large hedge funds, as they do receive funding from Citadel and others. In return, the hedge funds get massive amounts of data from the small investors, and from that, they can figure out how to make money. In fact, Robinhood has made $700 million in selling user data to hedge funds. During all of this, an SEC investigation was also triggered. In his company's defense, according to CEO Vlad Tenev, because of the unprecedented market conditions, Robinhood was forced to raise $1 billion to keep things running.
So I could believe that, but then because he just didn't come out and straight up say it, it's harder to believe. Like, if you needed the money and like you needed to restrict trading because like there's so much volume going on this, and I think they still have to pay the fees on the trades or whatever or something. Like they need more liquid, like, but he never said it until after the fact. And so it makes it a little more shady.
Yeah, like you were waiting for an excuse. You just needed to stop right now.
Right.
Or do what the hedge fund people were telling them to do.
Right.
And it's so, like, we'll figure out your legal, like how you get through it later.
And so there's been a lot of market manipulation on the GameStop stock, not only, with the Robinhood and, Discord and Facebook, but also just like the media and these other tools that the hedge fund institutional traders can use to artificially move down the price. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at that.
The GameStop price began to drop, and fear spread throughout the Reddit message boards. Some users had lost hundreds of thousands, and some millions. Keith Gill had now lost over 14 million, but they all held their position. They believed that the hedge funds would have to buy back their positions to cover their shorts sooner or later, and this would cause the price to rise once again.
So Keith Gill, we should keep in mind, he only lost 14 million from his peak of 58 million. And so he still gained like, I don't know, like 44 million.
50,000. So
yeah, so he's still up 40. He's still up 44 million.
Yeah.
The people that really lost money are the ones that bought in too high. And that's,
maybe not at the beginning.
Yeah, maybe they bought it at like 300 and now it's like at 90. But that's the point of investing, is that you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. I mean, that's why they call it gambling.
There's no guarantee that it'll be there.
Right.
That's why they said the risk is that the stock goes to zero.
Right.
That's the highest risk, going to zero.
Right. Their highest risk is losing the price of the stock. Whereas the hedge fund short positions, they're going to keep losing money until they get those stocks back, and so they either have to buy them or wait because they still have to pay interest on the stocks. That's why
so you
shorting
control
a stock,
the supply.
Shorting a stock, you can actually lose like an infinite amount of money. It's crazy. It's crazy risky, but these people love it.
Though it is possible
it's gambling.
That, although the Redditors held, the big sharks had already sold. I can commend the Redditors for their strong conviction in doing what they believe was right. But many have broken the #1 rule of investing. Only invest what you're willing to lose. Though maybe some view it as a donation to a good cause rather than an investment. As the stock price began to wane, a new news cycle began to emerge. The Redditors had moved from GameStop onto silver. Many physical silver dealers saw a massive increase in demand and the silver price shot up. But this outcome was not possible by Reddit alone. The silver market is too large, and even the Redditors knew this. There were many posts on the forums saying stay away from silver, it's just a distraction from GameStop. The consensus on the forum was that the news media was lying, and they were the ones causing the rush to silver. This broke the...
That's crazy. It's like, they feel like... do you think they're too paranoid? They feel like the media is trying to manipulate them, or trying to manipulate the news around them so that they can maybe help the institutional investors.
Does do that.
I guess it's true, because who owns the media other than the institutional investors?
Yeah, I'm like, we see that.
Yeah, Jeff
happen
Bezos owns Washington Post. It's crazy.
Yeah, now that money is all intermingled, it's like anyone who's losing money because of this, which is a lot of people who their names might not be there, but they're,
I know,
they want it to stop. Like, who would have guessed that Robinhood and these things would do these, if they go to that extreme to try to stop this?
Well, you think, like, when people say, like, fake news, you're like, okay. But then when you see it like this, where it's like the media is actually trying to spin a story in a very specific way to help take the attention off the GameStop thing.
I felt about American media since
right,
2000.
And maybe not enough people feel this way. Like, that it really is like there are people that pay the media to spin stories a very specific way, and it's happening to this community. That's why I think
people have so much distrust, and why so many Trump supporters were like, yeah, fake media.
Yeah,
because they feel kind of those things.
So that should be the assumption.
Now,
or that should be the standard assumption.
Follow the money. Always
Yeah.
Follow the numbers where they...
in media for many that understood what was going on. By this stage, the Wallstreet Bets forums were on fire. There were reports of large institutions failing to deliver borrowed GameStop stock, and hedge funds using a technique called a short ladder attack. This is where hedge funds sell 100-share increments back and forth to each other in order to drop the price.
Yeah, so they're doing all they can.
A little short cheat.
They're doing all they can to try to lower the price of these stocks. And so the longer Reddit holds on to this, the most likely the stock will rise. But right now, it's not. And so I guess there was a lot of panic for people who expected it to rise faster. But
those
the crazy thing about timing,
those stocks wanted to make money fast.
Yeah,
that's why they're used to not holding.
So there's
the merge. I think there's a lot of like I said, the Bitcoin holders.
You bring up a good point. Is like there's a lot of different people for different reasons wanting to get on this, and so it's like for the people who wanted to make money fast and they bought it too high, it's a lot harder to hold. But for people who just want to teach the institutional investors a lesson,
or to expose,
right? They're in it.
Like, what is this that they're doing?
They've already committed to losing the money, so they can hold indefinitely because they're
like entertainment value. That's what I do when I go to Vegas. Like, the money you're gonna gamble with is supposed to be for entertainment. The minute you're getting really upset about you shouldn't be playing with the kind of money like that, but entertainment value.
Well, that's what they're doing, right? This is the first time in history, probably, where a bunch of individuals were able to play the rich person's game and get back at them.
Accessible,
right. So in The Big Short, no, but it's not only that. In The Big Short, you had a scene where these two college kids, they wanted to start a fund, but they can't without a specific license, right? And
yes,
and and your fund has to be worth billions of dollars, right? So a lot of funds only had opportunities to make these or the opportunities to make these moves were only for
available to people who
are already really rich, right? But now that you can crowdsource these things, plus in 2019, the brokerages removed the fees, you're able to make these type of big moves against institutions by crowdsourcing it to a bunch of individuals. It's crazy. Just a message board online mobilized millions of people to buy GameStop shares, and now
The ants have revolted.
Yeah, it's like the movie Ants, where the ants take on the grasshoppers.
Are freaking out because there's no more.
I'm
just
not
trading seeds between each other, hoping that the ticker will be like, look, see, there's a lot of trades going on.
right. I'm only 30, and I can remember at least like 3 market crashes in my lifetime, which is like the .com, the 2008 housing market crash, and then this weird bifurcated like the 2020 COVID crash.
Oh yeah.
And
what is
it's like, why does this keep happening? And for most of my life, even as much as I learned about like finance and like economics, you never really felt like there was any way. You always just kind of felt like you had to go with the momentum of the finance industry. You never really felt like you could do anything about it until now. Now with a bunch of your friends,
and if you can, there's so much more information to make it more like understandable.
exactly.
Every millisecond, 1,000 trades a second.
Yeah.
So it to them using their technology, these big guys, they're just making it look like 1,000 trades are happening when it's really not. The actual people who are holding the actual stock.
Right. But now what Reddit did was, if you expose yourself in a way as an institution to try to make gains
while bankrupting a company that could possibly still be okay.
They're not technically bankrupting the company.
If
they're just waiting for
shorting them.
Yeah,
they're basically
any way you manipulate the market like that, there is another way that you created for us to make money off of that.
Yes.
That's the cool thing about this, is that now there is an opportunity to fight back against those institutions.
They shut it down, like
but
and not if they.
Even if Robinhood shuts down, there's going to be another. There's like TD Ameritrade or what's the other one? There's a bunch of apps that you can buy apps to, and that's why a lot of the Wallstreet Brett's posts were like, "Go buy through this app." But yeah, so during my lifetime, which isn't that long, I'm a millennial.
3 crises.
3 decades, 3 different crises that were set up by greedy banks, really, like people that sold big institutions,
and
that like
the little people all felt it.
Exactly.
The people actually holding the real and affected
and
by
now you have
assets, and they're playing with tokens.
Right. And this story is so interesting, and I think it's going to because like you're able, for the first time, you're able to make them pay. The government didn't have to do it. A bunch of people got to do it using their rules. You know what I mean? It's like that's really the only way.
It's so funny. I didn't bet anything. Obviously, I don't have.
Yeah, if like what they did was they didn't have to change the rules through like legislation or regulation. They just played the game, and they took a better position than they did. And even with all of these high frequency tradings, as long as you know what's going on, meaning like the volume isn't being traded, or the volume hasn't increased in trades, just the trades have increased, and all the data's out there, you can hold and like not panic and be assured that like your position is undervalued. Anyways, good job, Reddit and Wall Street Bets. Usually when you hear Reddit in the news, it's like not great, but this is the first time I feel like it's actually like, wow, this is really good news.
Yeah.
Well, that was it. Do you have anything else?
Well, I was remembering 2 weeks ago how someone's like, the stock market is not a good representation of our economy, and I'm like, well, maybe this is the correction that's going to be made.
It's the rich person feeling graph.
The correction's going to be. I know, but
the stock market is just a graph.
I was like,
of
how do we fix that? How do we fix it? And now I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, I think with the technology going as fast as it's going and the people recognizing and learning these things, like it will correct.
You know what it is? I think when you, and we talk about this a lot about cryptocurrency, but when you lower the barrier of entry to get into something, whether it's like stocks or even like ordering a car, like on Uber, like whenever you lower the barrier of entry to do something, I think the market sees a correction for where things are supposed to cost. Mm-hmm. And so I think we see that even in like YouTube and like social media, like people who are able to get people's attention, like they end up becoming the most valuable because, you know, the data shows in like their analytics, right? They're like views or subscribers. So what Robinhood and all these other brokers did with their apps is that they lowered the barrier of entry so that anyone can just start trading, like buying stocks and like selling stocks. And I think that's why we see a market correction of, we're seeing it now, a market correction of not exploiting things or like not pushing things down because you have a lot more players in the game now. And these players, although they're small, if they group up together, they can make
Their
a
trades are
position
just as
against
valuable.
you. Yeah, no, they can take a position against you now that is substantial, not just limited to like 1 or 2 shares. And so that's what I think the correction is like anytime you get more players in a game, you're going to see a correction for things to be more fair, just because now percentage wise, you're not the only one with money in the game. So I'm excited to see corrections in our financial institutions because God knows we need them.
Yeah, to include and reflect like the actual people's economy.
Right. Yeah. And if you missed out on GameStop shares, but also want to help the people's economy, go check out our merch store. All right.
Invest in our company.
I know. We'll go public. We have shares available. So we sold. Well, yeah, just go check out our links. All right, guys. If you don't have buds, we're your buds.
Yeah.
We'll see you. Bye.
Ciao.
If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe.